Hello and welcome to episode 458 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I am Carlos, and in this week's show, A350 ends up with a redesigned nose cone, and one pilot has to break into his own aircraft. In the military news this week, an F-5 crashes and the Chinese Air Force tries some rather interesting moves in front of a US aircraft. So, I'm back in the UK, and joining me this week, just across the village, over in the PTUK Master Suite Studios, it is, of course, the master of all things slidey and twiddly. It's Matt Smith.
Hello, hello, hello. Yes. I'm here as well. You're back in the UK, back home. Yay.
I know. It's a tough old job.
Yeah, well, quite. Yeah, absolutely. Indeed.
No, it's good to be back. I got home Sunday morning and had a lovely flight back with American Airlines on their 777-200 ER, which was lovely. Very nice flight indeed. Nice crew as well, and they loved the box of Celebration chocolates. I took them. God, blimey, did they love them. Yes, it was very good. But great to be back anyway. And joining us from across the fields, the glens, the rivers, the lakes, the ponds in the UK, over in the glorious Buckinghamshire countryside, is, of course, Neville Bounds.
Yes, here I am again with a new battery, not for me, but for the car, after last week's episode. So that's all good. I've been doing some procurement of books as well, so we've got more books to give away and a special one in a couple of weeks' time. And we've got the answer to the competition from last time round, and we'll be setting a new question for this week's competition as well. But otherwise, all good here. Thank you very much.
Indeed. If only it was that easy, hey Nev, to sort of, just change the batteries and off we go again. If only that was possible in life, eh?
It's actually quite difficult to change a battery on a car, and you have to do a lot of software reset and battery management sensor, and oh dear, it's a bit of a faff. But anyway, it's all okay now.
I mean, on my old car, it's not a problem at all. All you have to do is literally just sort of take the old battery off and put the new one on. There's no clever resetting required here. It has to be set.
I'm right in thinking, Nev, that you had to get one of those special batteries because you've got the old stop-start function on your car.
Yes, well, they're always more expensive anyway.
Yes.
They take a bit of a caning. But luckily, they fitted it under warranty. So that was
that's a result, yeah.
Oh, even better. Yeah.
So,
well, what we got to look at first then on the show this week? Well, I've got a little video, a special little treat for our very own Neville Bounds this week, and there's a little video that I took when I landed at London Heathrow on Sunday morning. It was around about 8 o'clock Sunday morning, and it's on the screen for those of you watching in the world of YouTube now, and glorious sunshine. I will say it was nice because when I left Charlotte the night before, it was a very wet, windy and rainy Charlotte when I left. And I literally, the final day there, the weather completely changed. But now, Nev, especially for you,
planes at T5.
look at all those BA planes. The entire...
Let me guess, was there an IT issue when you were coming back? Is that why they were all on the ground?
So you landed on 9 left there.
That is correct, Nev. That is correct, yeah. And to give Adam a little wave there in the tower. And yeah, it was. He probably doesn't work. So no, he doesn't.
No,
work
far too senior for that. Goodness.
But one thing I will just say is a big thanks to the ground operators at Heathrow, the tower operator, I should say, who was in charge of ground, because we parked on a remote stand, which I think must have been somewhere south of Scotland. Outside London, because we had to get a bus back to the terminal building. But I will say, one of the things I'm very pleased of is the fact that I heard the day, I think it was the previous day, Nev, you probably know this, I heard that there were some slight issues at London Heathrow in regards to the passport, the e-reader passport control.
Yes. The dreaded passport e-readers, and it wasn't just Heathrow, it was Gatwick, Manchester, the whole lot had a real problem, but it's all back up and running now, thank goodness. But we could do without that sort of business going on.
But no, I got through really quickly, so it was very good. One last gripe I've got is with Hopper, the transfer service at Heathrow, the buses. If anyone from Hopper's watching the show, probably not, but anyway, if anyone's used the Hopper service before to get to the hotels in and around London Heathrow, it would have been quicker if I'd have hopped back on the 777 and taxied to the hotel, the Renaissance Hotel, because the Hopper service was only just nearly an hour late. So big thanks to everyone at Hopper.
Hopper was a shocker then.
It was a shocker, yes. Yes, thanks to Hopper, made my day even longer getting back to the east of England here. But
I have to say, in Hopper's defence, because I was in, it was Hopper that was the service I was using for both of my connections in Gran Canaria, and I have to say they were extremely punctual, and the coaches that I had, they were both absolutely beautiful coaches I could only dream of driving, and they were all beautifully cold when we got in them. So
no,
you know,
these were like 1920s Dennis trucks.
Nice, okay.
Matt, with windows in the sides. They weren't like that at all. Yes.
Oh dear. Okay. Oh well. Yeah. Sorry to hear that.
Anyway, it is the beginning of the month, so Nev's got a very important group of people to thank for their contributions to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, yes, I can't believe it's the beginning of the month already. Amazing, isn't it? So this is where we say thank you very much to all of our Patreon and PayPal contributors for the last month. And those are Bill Aranek, Sam Dawson, Alex Robinson, Dirk S., Sasha Beer, Stephen Ivey, Nick Codling, Louis Kacharis, Alan White, Stephen Howland, Tanya Wyman, Nicholas Hewitt, Masha Gertz, Ruben Wells, Neil Lambourne, Graham Haley, Jonathan Warner, Eric Graves, Jordan Rose, Andrew Wilson, Captain Jeff, Adam Spink, he's still playing even though he doesn't work on a Sunday, Liz Piper, Jeff Ward, Jenny Parkinson, Stuart Backer, Ray Williams and Stephanie Plummer. And from the PayPal side of things, it's Craig Urasoko and Mazus Kareem. Thank you very much indeed to all of you for your fantastic contributions, because that helps us keep the show on the road. Literally in a week or so's time, so we'll be going off to RAF Cosford, and we'll be telling you more about that next week. But many thanks to everybody who has contributed once again.
And a quick special mention as well to a latest Patreon who joined us last week, Ben Todd. Thanks to Ben Todd for becoming our latest member of the Patreon team. So thank you very much, Ben, for your generous Patreon pledge. So we've got loads of stuff to get through on the show this week, including our Caption This picture this week, which made for some quite entertaining comments. But it's time to have a look at this week's commercial news. So if all the team's ready,
Yeah.
let's go.
The captain has turned on the seatbelt light. Please take your seats and fasten your seatbelts.
So, kicking off this week's first news story from theguardian.com, Delta Airlines, they're in trouble, facing a lawsuit over a $1 billion carbon neutrality claim. Blimey. Delta Airlines, the major US airline, is facing class action lawsuit over allegations of misleading consumers with its claims of being the world's first carbon neutral airline. What do you think to say that? The suit contends that Delta's claims rely heavily on junk carbon offsets, which do little to counteract the climate crisis. In February 2020, Delta announced $1 billion plan to achieve carbon neutrality within the next decade, stating it would this initiative would be achieved through the purchase of carbon credits, conservation of natural habitats, and increased aircraft efficiency. However, the lawsuit filed in California argues that Delta's carbon neutrality claim is demonstrably false and accuses the airline of misleading customers into believing their flights have no environmental impact. In January, a major investigation or investigative journalism project spearheaded by The Guardian claimed that the carbon credit provider Vera was offering many worthless forest credits to corporations. And it alleged 90% of Vera's rainforest credits were not delivering the stated climate benefits. Vera has disputed the findings, but has nevertheless set out plans to replace its rainforest carbon credit methodologies by 2025. The case filed by Glendale, California resident Mayan Berin claims to act on behalf of anyone who flew Delta while living in the state since March 2020. For a carbon credit to be valid, it must provide benefit that would not have happened otherwise. Barron argues that this enabled Delta to gain a market share and charge higher prices. And she argues, though, her attorneys that would not have brought the tickets or would have paid less has she known the nature of the offsets. Barron will argue that Delta customers will likely not have been aware of these controversies and have been falsely misled into thinking their flights had no climate impact. Delta has argued that the lawsuit is without legal merit and has stated that it has fully transitioned to focus away from carbon offsets towards the decarbonisation of operations. A judge will now decide whether or not to progress the case. Well, as far as I know, all jets produce some kind of exhaust emissions into the sky. I didn't realise that it's all a load of waffle.
I think there's probably a lot of waffle, people, you calling it waffle, but I think there's a lot of people who would not necessarily agree with you in terms of that. Yeah. As I say, it's the aircraft are still putting out the emissions. It's just the offsetting is what they're sort of, claiming is what's in place.
Well,
I've never got my head around it. Nev knows more about it than me.
No, I don't. All I know, this will, whatever the result of this, the price of your ticket will go up because of the cost of the legal fees of doing all this stuff. I don't know how much Delta will have to pay their lawyers and legal teams to do all this stuff, but it will be substantial whether they win or lose. So that will be passed on to the good old passenger at the end of the day. So that is going to be the result of all that, irrespective of what the argument is. I thought.
Oh, well. Yes. Hurry up and get those electric planes flying. Come on. Anyway, Nev, you have got the next story.
Oh, have I? I thought.
Are you sure?
Oh no! Oh, have you?
No, that would be me. I think. I'll take.
Oh, Matt. Sorry,
if you
Matt.
don't mind,
yeah.
Nev, if that's all right.
You can have this, Matt.
Yeah. No, please do.
This is chaviation.com is the website, and the headline is UK startup carrier Global Airlines has acquired an Airbus A380. So Global Airlines, a British startup planning to operate premium intercontinental services from London Gatwick in spring 2024, has acquired its first A380-800 from lessor Doric Asset Finance. The startup said it chose to buy rather than lease the aircraft as it showcases our commitment to financial security and resilience from day one. The purchase of our first aircraft demonstrates that we are well on the way to launching global. The next step is to overhaul and refit the aircraft to our high specification, providing our customers with the best experience in the sky today, Chief Executive and Founder James Asquith has said. 9H Mike Indigo Papa, was that right? India? Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Was initially sorry, I'm so proud of myself. Was initially delivered to Singapore Airlines SQ Singapore Shanghai in 2008 and subsequently leased by High Fly Malta 3L Malta International in 2018. The Maltese ACMI charter specialist retired it in 2020, struggling to find enough business for the type. The aircraft remains parked at Lourdes and Tarbes and registered in Malta, but has been repainted in Global's livery. The startup said it is planning to acquire another 3 A380s shortly and aims to outfit them with around 471 passenger seats each, including high-end first-class suites. The Global Airline said that it would outline its network plans later in 2023. The startup previously floated plans to connect Gatwick with long-haul destinations around the world, but now said it would initially focus on the transatlantic market. Global Airlines has a registered capital of 100. Well, it says £100 here.
Yes.
That seems very low. It's a registered capital of £100. That's 123 US dollars, fully paid by founder Asquith. The startup is reportedly backed by Asquith's other business venture, Holiday Swap, a privately held holiday accommodation provider. Oh, now this is interesting. Do you think perhaps then that they're going to try and do like a TUI or a Jet 2 or something like that, where not only do they do the holiday but they do the plane as well?
Well, like an inclusive tour kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. A sort of like an all-in type thing. It's interestingly enough, actually, John is very kindly providing some information, because I feel like I know the name. It's one of those. I feel like I know the name of James Asquith, and he's very kindly popping it in the notes, saying James Asquith is an internet personality. You might remember the very open and very critical letters to Emirates and Air Canada that we covered at some point on the show a while back. He runs the Holiday Swap website, and he basically is an Instagram influencer. So there we go. So an Instagram influencer with access to a large sum of cash, I suspect. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, how do we feel about this? Because obviously, I mean, it's exciting that you know, the A380 is finding a new lease of life with this new let's say carrier for the moment. I guess that is what they intend to be at some point. But I mean, it seems a very brave decision.
Yeah, and of course they probably need more than one. I mean, they are saying they're going to acquire another 3. That's the plan. Because if you only have one aircraft and it ever goes tech, especially an aircraft that size, there's no alternatives really. You end up putting people on 2 flights probably, rather than one. But be interesting to see what the ticket prices are for this. I hope they're not going to go for a low-cost model. I don't think they are, from what they've been saying in this.
I mean, if they're doing a first-class thing, I doubt it.
Because the low-cost stuff doesn't work at all, as we know, across the pond. But if they're going for high-end first-class stuff, then that's a bit more like it. So I think we'll see what that comes out like. But it's good to see there's some more utilisation of the A380, though, definitely.
Indeed. Richard Adams is saying in the chat room there, it's an expensive aircraft for a startup. I'm all for going in big. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, you're literally going in with the biggest in the industry, aren't you? I suppose. Yeah. But yeah, as you say, I suspect they'll have 3 or 4 of these. It'll be interesting to find out what the routes are later on in the year. I think it's towards the end of 2023. We'll hopefully find out more. But yeah,
on a plus side, there's loads of spares.
I mean, yes. I mean, there's
with all the 380s that have been retired.
I was going to say there's loads of spare aircraft as well. Although, yeah, absolutely. I don't think Emirates will be sort of retiring any of theirs anytime soon. They probably make sure that James can't get hold of them if he's been critical of them as well. But yeah, there we go. Yeah, apparently he also holds a Guinness World Record. I don't know what for, but yeah, James Asquith apparently does hold a Guinness World Record as well. So there you go.
So a new lease of life for the 380.
Indeed, indeed.
Let's see if it works.
Yes,
watch this space. I think.
Fingers crossed.
Nev, damaged nose cones.
Never a good thing, not ideal. No. It's on the aerotime.aero. Air France A350-900 turns back with damaged nose. Well, this aircraft was operating flights AF291 between Osaka Kansai in Japan and Paris Charles de Gaulle on 28th of May. Just gone, was forced to declare an emergency at 11 a.m. I think that probably is local time, and return to the airport after apparently having its nose cone damaged by a bird strike. The decision to turn back was taken about 30 minutes into the flight, when the aircraft had already reached its cruising altitude of 35,000 feet, after the pilots reported a technical malfunction affecting the aircraft's weather radar and speedometer. I think they mean air speed indicator. You have a speedometer on your car or your motorbike. Pictures have emerged on social media of the A350 taxiing at Kansai after the emergency landing with its nose cone visibly damaged. likely due to bird strike experience upon takeoff. The aircraft, which is registration Foxtrot Hotel Tango Yankee Oscar, entered service with Air France barely a year ago and was carrying 324 passengers plus the crew at the time of the incident. I would imagine, unless there's any fuel jettison facility on that aircraft, they would have landed overweight as well.
I mean, this must be something that you hear at the front of the aircraft. I mean, that must be a heck of a bang to get a strike like that and to do that much very visible damage to the nose cone. I mean, because you're quite a long way away from the engine, so I assume it's fairly quiet up front.
Yeah, well, of course, the A350 is a particularly quiet aircraft anyway. Carlos and I went on one on the way to the Dubai Air Show in 2019, I seem to recall, and that was a very, very quiet aircraft. But yeah, with lots of sensors and pitot tubes and what have you on the front, off left and right hand side of the aircraft as well. So apart from the nose cone damage, there was some other damage done probably also. But no, they got it back on the deck nicely, and would have to have deplaned the passengers and found another aircraft.
Yes.
Maybe split them onto 2 flights. I don't know how they all got back in the end, but yeah, not ideal. But yeah, of course, when these, I mean, aircraft takeoff speeds, what are they? 150 knots, 160 knots sometimes, something like that. You go through some birds on takeoff or soon after takeoff. That's they do a lot of damage, don't they? We've
I bet they do.
many examples of that in the past, actually. So yeah,
Absolutely. Totally agree there.
Looking at the picture actually on the Av Herald site, a lot better close-up picture of the nose cone, and there's no different colorization of the nose cone or debris, so it is a fairly either swift hit, I should say, or something that didn't leave its mark anyway on the nose cone. But yeah, would have been very noisy, I'd imagine, because when you take away the aerodynamics of a nose cone and put dents in, it does create some quite noisy environments.
Presumably it's lots of things like presumably it generates like handling issues, vibrations, all sorts of bits and pieces, I dare say.
Yeah, it might have been vibrations, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think because it was on the nose cone, obviously that's where the weather radar is as well, and the ILS antennas and all the rest of it. So there's a lot of sensitive equipment just behind the nose cone there. But as I said earlier, there's a lot of stuff on the left and right hand side of the aircraft as well that measures air pressure and speed and all the rest of it. So a lot of other things that can be damaged.
But on the picture on the Av Herald site, which Matt will get in a moment, if you look, it's actually the damage itself looks as if it's contained within the actual nose cone section itself, which is easy to replace.
Yeah.
Because I've seen these when they've changed these in the workshops when you've seen them on the TV programs, and it looks on the picture here that the damage is well contained within the actual pull, the actual takeaway section of the nose cone. So this may be a relatively easy fix, I would hope.
I mean, there's holes in it as well. Actually, we're looking at the picture now. If you're watching on YouTube, I mean that can't have been one bird. That must have been a flock of or something, surely.
Well, also there's a lot. So imagine the aircraft's structural integrity as well, bearing in mind its carbon fibre construction as well. So there might be a bit more to it than just buffing it out or replacing.
Yeah, Richard Adams makes a good point. Wonder if that much crushing would have damaged the radar inside, because there is actually a radar dish.
Is there?
Well, I think it's the weather radar.
Weather radar and ILS
weather radar. Yeah.
That close to the end, you would say.
Yeah. It's literally where that's deformed. Where those holes are is where the dish sits in there.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah. Well, it'll be a few quid. I'm sure the insurance company will pay out.
Can you get insurance for something like that?
Well, I don't know. Actually, that's something we need to find out on the show, is whether these airlines have insurance. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Moving on. Next story. Exciting news here if you fancy a good theme park, because Simple Flying, this comes from .com. Flight of Dreams, a Japanese theme park, has been built around the first ever 787, located at Shubu Sentair International Airport, 22 miles south of Nagoya in central Japan, is a shopping centre and a theme park containing the first ever Boeing 787 Dreamliner. The decision to open an exhibition featuring the prototype Boeing 787-8 in a shopping centre was not by accident. The Aichi prefecture in central Honshu Island is the heart of the Japanese aerospace industry. The area played a huge role in building the Boeing 787 with the Mitsubishi Heavy Industries Fuji Aerospace Technology and Kawasaki Heavy Industries supplying 35% of the plane's parts. The Boeing 787's wings, mid-forward fuselage, center wing box, and main landing gear were all manufactured in Japan as well. Once completed, the parts were transported aboard a Dreamlifter for final assembly at Boeing's Everett, Washington factory. And in recognition of the Japanese company's role in bringing the aircraft to fruition on June the 22nd, 2015, Boeing donated the prototype Dreamliner to the Chubu Center International Airport, serving the city of Nagoya. The airport is located in the third largest metropolitan area in Japan, a region that is home to Toyota and Mitsubishi. With the airport handling millions of passengers a year, they opened a retail park and leisure park called the Skytown Shopping Centre. Open to the public, the shopping centre features 61 shops and restaurants individually themed to look like they belong on a Japanese street. In 2018, the shopping centre decided to expand and open a new section called the Flight of Dreams, which it would build around the Boeing 787 as its centrepiece. Visitors and passengers can access the Flight of Dreams via a footbridge from the passenger terminal. The exterior of the building where the aircraft is housed was built to resemble a hangar that was constructed around the jetliner. The Flight of Dreams exhibition Flight of Dreams building is divided into two sections, the Flight Park and the Seattle Terrace. The Flight Park is an aviation-themed exhibition area where visitors can learn about the history of flight. And the site also features two flight simulators. And, of course, you can explore the Boeing 787 Dreamliner on display and have your photo taken while sitting on the flight deck. In the Flight of Dreams, there is also a young children's play area with swings and roundabouts. And if you want to experience flying the 787, the simulator costs around 1,080 yen, or around $8 for 5 minutes. Oh, that's not bad. Or $90 for a 30-minute flight. Oh, blimey. Tickets booked for there next.
Yeah.
Inspired by the city where Boeing was founded, Seattle Terraces features many shopping and dining options you'd expect to find in Seattle. There are also some Japanese restaurants and noodle bars for visitors who prefer local fare. The Flight of Dreams is also home to the first Boeing store opened outside the US. You can buy official Boeing merchandise imported from the US in the Seattle Plane Maker store. You'll also find genuine Boeing aircraft parts, which have been turned into furniture or decorative items for your home. So, fastest and most convenient ways to get there, the Flight of Dreams, and is to take the Sky Limited Express from the Nagoya train station. The train only has first-class seating. There we go, Nev, special for you. And the fare is 1,590 yen, or $11.50. Blimey, we're being robbed in this country for first-class seating on trains. All seats must be reserved in advance, and the journey takes 28 minutes. And you could probably find out more details on them. But to get in, it's £8.60, or $8.60, I should say, to get in. And children from 3 to 12, it costs you $5.80. Let's be fair, it's quite cheap to be curtly honest here for an exhibit like this, I should say. It's fairly cheap. And yeah, it puts.
It's more of a shopping mall than a theme park, in my opinion. I guess it's more of a. I guess that's I don't know, maybe lost in translation or something. A theme park, I would normally associate with somewhere like Alton Towers or something like that. But
so basically, when I go there with Gemma, she'll go off shopping,
right.
I'll be in the 787 in the sim.
Yeah. I'm being told theme park means it's just got a theme that can include things like rides and stuff like that. So yeah. So no, that's fair. That's fair. I doff my cap. Thank you. Yeah.
No, very good.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good thinking. That is. We'll have to try and see if we can get that in the our local shopping centre in Norwich, man.
I mean, at Castle Quarter, I'm not quite sure how or where you would put it. I don't think there's the space, is there?
Well, it's right next door to Norwich, London National International Airport.
Right. Okay. I mean, there might be room at the Aviation Museum next door.
That is a good museum.
Yeah. Indeed.
Right, up next, it's a story all about the Reno Air Race. Obviously, Armando's not with us this week, you might have noticed. He is busy, absolutely going crazy at the Reno Air Races, but he has sent in a video for us this week, and this story comes from flyingmag.com. So over to you, Armando.
Hey team, here we are back in Reno, Nevada. This is Pylon Racing Seminar Week. This is the practice week in preparation for the Reno Air Races in September of this year. And as we've mentioned, this is the last year for the Reno Air Races as we know it here in the city of Reno. They're still looking for a new venue for 2024 or whatever the future may hold. So hopefully this week we're going to get some really good content. I've got some great pilots teed up that we're going to hopefully do some interviews with this week, and we'll air them out over the next couple weeks. But I wanted to kind of get this story out there. We've been holding off. This is something that's actually been happening in the works for a couple weeks now. We were holding off on talking about it until it became public, mostly because there is a lawsuit. There's a legal case going on right now, and it was finally made public this week. This particular story was picked up by Flying Magazine, longtime running magazine, which is essentially the lawsuit leading up to potentially the biplane class, which is one of the classes here at the Reno Air Races, not attending this week that I'm here, as well as potentially not racing in the final races in September of this year. So what essentially happened was, one of the things that we pride ourselves here at the Reno Air Races, and I'm speaking for all of the classes, I'm really mostly experienced with just the sport class and a little bit of T6 class, but I think all of the classes are the same in that we uphold the highest standards, we value safety, and we value trust in each other. That's the pilots, the ground crews, the operations staff. It takes everyone to be able to trust each other and perform to a certain standard for the races to be executed in a safe manner. Last year, September of last year, so almost 9 months now, the sport class did something which is one of the hardest things to do, which is, as a class, they voted democratically with the backing of the biplane class leadership. They voted to stand down a pilot. Now, as all of our listeners know, it is hard to do that. It is hard to call out someone when they're not meeting standards in any job or any industry, but especially in a very type A personality kind of driven environment like we do here at the air races. Now, this particular person, John D'Alessandris, was stood down by his class and his class leadership and his instructors for essentially unsafe flying or not meeting the standards. This actually, 99.9% of people, of pilots, when approached with this kind of scenario, would just accept that the class has voted, and there is an avenue. There are multiple avenues to remedy substandard performance. That could be reattendance of the Pylon Racing Seminar, especially if it happens during race week, remedial training. At the very extreme end, it's kind of stood down and removal from racing. This particular individual decided to not do that, and in fact created a lawsuit against the Reno Air Racing Association. Now, according to some court documents, the accusations against Mr. D'Alessandris were allegations of cheating during some speed trials, reckless flying, including crossing the show line, which is something that we just don't do, right? The crowd safety is number one in this organization, followed by the safety of the pilots. He was accused of having his airplane inspected in his own hangar or a private hangar, as opposed to the biplane hangar as the class rules require. And per the lawsuit, several pilots approached Mr. D'Alessandris and the officials with their concerns, but at the time he was not pulled from the competition. Now, once the class voted and said he was not performing to standards, he did not take it well, and he is actually suing the biplane class and the Reno Air Race Association for breach of contract, civil conspiracy, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Now, something interesting happened in this lawsuit. We all assume that we are going to be backed by our leaders. And in this particular case, the class officers took this action of removing him from the racing, standing him down. But the class officers did not feel like the Reno Air Race Association was supporting their decision to do so. And as such, both from a personal feeling standpoint as well as a liability standpoint, this kind of pushed the class officers into a corner, and they ended up resigning from the board. All of the class officers resigned from the board, essentially leaving the biplane class leaderless. And then, in order to protect the assets of the organization, they essentially disbanded the biplane class, all because of this one individual in their lawsuit. So what does this mean? They are not going to be here this week, for one, and it could potentially take the biplane class out of the running at the last Reno Air Race here in September. This is really important to us. The Reno Air Races have been held since 1964. The biplane class has been an integral part of the racing here. It's one of the most exciting races that happens, because it's such a tight course, it's such tight competition, the airplanes are all fairly evenly matched. It is just a shame that they're not able to participate because of legal action. As we kind of have talked about on the show, the Reno Air Race Association is sort of an umbrella organization, with each individual class being its own, almost self-governing entity. And this is only affecting the biplane class for now. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like they're going to be able to participate. That all being said, the races are still on for their last year here. September 13 through 17 is the date. They're expecting over 150 airplanes, plus some static displays, plus military display teams, civilian display teams. There's going to be activities for families and kids, and then of course the heritage displays with some of the warbirds. And also the stole drag, the short takeoff and landing stole drag races will be here with some pretty famous internet personalities. So again, we didn't really want to mention this until it was made public. It is now public, and it's just a very unfortunate event that the Reno Air Race will not be fully staffed for this year.
I think it's one of those things when you look at safety at air shows after what's gone on in previous years, not just in the US, but in obviously in the UK as well, that anyone who flies and does naughty things when flying is going to be bound to be pulled up on said thing. But it's sad, though. It is sad. We were just chatting whilst that video was playing there. We're just saying it is sad. It's the last Reno air show at Reno. Anyway. this year.
I mean, I was saying though, I think it will. I genuinely do think, because it's such a popular event, and as long as they can overcome the hurdle of the insurance stuff, I do think they'll find another base, if you like, to sort of host it. And of course, I know it won't be called the Reno Air Races, obviously, which will be a shame, but I do think it's, as long as the team moves with it, I do think that it'll immediately have that same, passion and love that you have for the Reno races. I do think it's still got legs, personally.
We're lucky as a show and as a team to have one of our team members there, aren't we?
Indeed,
with Armando. So I'm sure he'll be full of good stuff when he comes back with reports on what's going on there. But look forward to that, Armando. So, Nev, you've got the next story, and it's something you don't expect to see at your local airport.
Well, you don't want to have too many pies before you attempt this feat, I must say. It's on twitter.com. It says that locked door forces Southwest Airlines pilot to crawl through flight deck window. Passengers boarding a Southwest Airlines flight at San Diego International Airport were left puzzled after witnessing a pilot crawl onto the plane using one of the cockpit windows. A Twitter user by the name of Matt Rex Road took a photo of the event and posted it on the social media platform. Southwest responded to the tweet saying, "Well, this is definitely something you don't see every day." The incident took place on Wednesday, May the 24th at San Diego. Pilots operating the flight to Sacramento couldn't access the flight deck as the door had been somehow locked from the inside. No injuries were reported. The photos and details of the incident have been getting quite a reaction online, with most people praising the pilot for his dedication. Thanks to the stunt, the flight bound for Sacramento was only delayed by 8 minutes and arrived a mere 7 minutes behind schedule. When asked about the specifics of what exactly happened, Southwest told Simple Flying that a passenger trying to use the forward restroom inadvertently pushed the flight deck door, causing it to shut and lock by design. Unable to get in, the pilots had to resort to enter the flight deck through one of the windows with help from the ground crew. The airline said in a statement, "As you see from the photo, one of our pilots unlocked the door after entering the flight deck through a window." The flight departed as scheduled ahead of the busy weekend of summer travel in the US. "We don't have anything else to offer here except our thanks for the always impressive teamwork of our people to serve our customers safely and efficiently."
Now, Nev, the Captain Cruz has said in the chat room here, "Have we arrived at our Caption This competition already?"
I was going to say, yeah. There's so much material there, isn't there?
There is.
Only some of it broadcastable.
No, none of it, in fact, probably.
He was lucky that the window was open,
Yeah.
because if that window was sealed shut, you can't just jimmy it open.
Well, no, exactly. They've got a very strong, mechanism from the inside, those flight deck DV windows, haven't they? So, yeah, amazing. So,
Captain Cruz is saying cockpit door lock provider rating AAA+.
gosh.
Indeed. Never mind, hey. Well, there you go.
I like Richard Adams' little comment just there in the chat room, Matt.
Sorry, it's not like the pilot needs to scramble for 1A, of course, which is a very good point. Nev, on the other hand, are we sure that's not a picture of you trying to...
well, no, I'm not as slim as that fella.
Oh, Nev, honestly.
Yeah. Good point. John's just raised, actually. Why wasn't there anybody in the cockpit if there were passengers on board?
Yes.
Or why don't they just have, like, a car, beep, beep.
I mean, there must be, because it'll need special type rating, and goodness knows what else if you're going to do that. But
I also think that Southwest and anybody else, any other airline operator, would just like to gloss over anything to do with cockpit door security after what has gone on previously. So they don't want to talk about mechanisms and how stuff works. And I fully understand that.
But as John is saying in our ears, though, there's surely, even if there wasn't a pilot or a captain, if there are passengers on the plane, surely there has to be one person, like cabin crew or an engineer or something like that, somebody who's responsible for the aircraft, because there's somebody if there's a member of the public on the plane, it's as you say, John's saying, they could have, what if there was a fire, for example, knowing what's best to do and stuff like that. There's a lot of very unanswered questions with this story.
Could have been a rogue
If there's
pet.
a fire, get out the aircraft. That's my.
Well, yes, obviously, yes. Preferably without your hand luggage, if you wouldn't mind.
But if you think how tight, well, certainly on the A320s, I don't know about the 73s, but the lav door is very tight up to the flight deck door as well. So if that was slightly open and there was someone just, lost their balance, or they wanted to push on something to, keep their balance, that's very easy to do, I would imagine.
So, as I say, we're very, very lucky with the team that we have. As I say, like the 738, as you're saying there, Nev, is like, the toilet door handle can get caught in flight deck door handle, and it can actually force the door closed. I mean, that sounds like a huge design flaw. But
Well,
yeah, indeed. So yes, so apparently you can't access the door code panel when that happens, which is why you can't open it from the outside.
Dear.
So,
Design flaw.
indeed. Anyway,
So, Matt, it seems like this week we keep giving you all the A380 stories, and you've got another one, Matt.
right, okay, yeah. So it's because I've got no pictures. That's why, so that I can do it. Lufthansa resumes A380 flights after a 3-year break. That is the headline. Flightglobal.com is the source, and it's a German carrier, Lufthansa, Thursday this week resumed passenger flights with Airbus A380s for the first time since the pandemic. The airline had withdrawn the ultra large aircraft from service when COVID hit more than 3 years ago, and a return had seemed unlikely until widespread industry capacity challenges prompted a rethink. Following work to prepare the aircraft for a return to service, Lufthansa's Munich-Boston flight, LH424, is today operating with an A380. The aircraft bears the registration Delta Alpha India Mike Kilo, which Cirium Fleet's data shows is 2014 built, Rolls-Royce Trent 900 powered model, and is the first of up to 6 A380s the German carrier plans to return to service. Next month, Lufthansa will deploy an A380 on its Munich to New York JFK route, before later using it on services from the German city to Los Angeles and Bangkok. Now, it's as I say, Lufthansa has resumed flights with an Airbus A380 for the first time, deploying it on its Munich-Boston service. A good point for discussion, guys, if you're up for it, is with passenger numbers now back at close to pre-pandemic levels, the airlines have been sharply raising fares. Arguably, this may be partly to recoup some lost revenue during the pandemic, but equally, the fact that airlines have increasingly gone back to using 4-engine aircraft on regular scheduled routes, typically high-volume ones, obviously, where they're more likely to make their better margins, shows that the airlines must be making good money. What do we think about that?
I have to say, regardless of ticket prices and how much, I'm sure Nev will agree with me on this, regardless of how much ticket prices are, you've got to fill the aircraft. With a 380, you've got to put bums on seats. It's as simple as that. Otherwise, things get tricky.
I wonder what the minimum load factor is. Obviously, it depends on the route, doesn't it? And the handling costs at either end of the journey and that kind of thing, as far as the airport's concerned. But I wonder what the sort of the minimum occupancy level needs to be, and also in the right class as well. It's no good having a load of people in the cheap seats and no premium passengers, because that doesn't make it work either. So I would imagine the load factors have to be pretty high in order to make this work. Definitely.
Do you think some of it could be something as simple like you can literally get more people on that one aircraft, therefore you can perhaps run these routes with slightly fewer pilots, as long as they're, because you can type rate them for the A380 as an example. Could it be something as simple as that?
Well, I would imagine if they're going from Munich to Boston, they're probably taking 3 flight deck crew anyway.
Right. Okay, yeah.
Probably anything over 8 hours. They'll need an additional post officer on the aircraft anyway. So I think they've on that route anyway, they've got to operate it with 3 flight deck crew. Whatever happens, don't know. But again, we'll just have to see what happens here, because if they do get the load factors and it works well, and let's face it, although the aircraft's been discontinued, we always talk about it in the past tense, don't we? There's still a number of these operating, and they are a great aircraft. The only time I flew on one was earlier this year to Dallas, and it was just superb. Really enjoyed it. And then they're going to be using it from to Munich to Los Angeles and Bangkok, so that's much longer sectors as well. So we'll have to see how they get on.
Just had a quick internet search. Munich to Boston with Lufthansa on the 380, flying in a few weeks' time. Economy, it's in euros, but the exchange rate is so bad at the minute, it's virtually the same as pounds. But economy, about 700 quid. Premium economy is quite a lot more, just over 1,700 euros. And business, this is the bizarre thing, premium 1,700 euros, business is 1,850. So for an extra 100 quid, you can go in business class.
Yeah, well, I think we'll do that.
Lufthansa.
Seems like a no-brainer somehow. Just pop those up again, John. We've got some great comments in the chat room that we wanted to share with you. The main man, Micah, is saying part of the issue was also air traffic control and gates. If you were aircraft, that means using fewer gates and slots. Of course, if you were to use the larger aircraft, that is definitely an advantage for that one. So John is actually suggesting that, personally, I think part of it is that the two-engine new aircraft are being delayed, the A350, the 777X and the 787s, etc., of course, because they are struggling to build them fast enough, of course. And I think, as John says, that could be a huge factor in the fact that they've got these planes sitting around there. So even though they aren't ideal, it's better to run those than not, while you're still waiting for the new aircraft, possibly. Could it be as simple as that? Yeah. Should they bring them in? Yes, because they've been delayed. They should have been in service by now, and they're not. So all these plans.
The components, semiconductors and supply chain issues are continuing. They're not as bad as they were, but it's still affecting everything from aviation, automotive, stuff that I do for my job, all sorts of areas now. So yeah,
indeed.
It'd be interesting, Nev, to find out from one of your BA chums how BA are doing filling their 380s up, because I know they brought all of their 380s back online now.
Yes, all 12 of them are back. Yes, I'll see if I can find out from somebody that knows.
Be interesting to know.
Yeah.
So, next story is coming to us from Armando on the next one, and this is all about an aircraft that he is very well versed in flying, and it's all about the PC-12.
And we don't do technical stories on the show very often, but by this point, we've been doing this for a couple of years now. I think the Pilatus PC-12 is near and dear to all of us, if nobody else, at least Carlos, who has now flown the Pilatus twice, and it's probably his favorite airplane. But this story is about a new company. It's not a new company, but it's a company called True Blue Power. It's a Finoff Aviation Products. They just developed a new battery, and they just received the FAA's Supplemental Type Certificate, or an STC, for new lithium-ion batteries into all versions of the PC-12. That's all the older versions, the Series 9, the Series 10, the Series 10E, even the Series 10, there's Dash 45s, there's Dash 47s, all have a little bit slightly different in the engines, the airframes, and we'll get into the weight savings here in a little bit, or the weight differences. But as you guys can imagine, developing anything new for an aircraft, especially when it comes to something like an electrical system, new batteries, you can't just throw whatever you want into an airplane. There's a lot of paperwork that has to be done, a lot of testing that has to be done in order for the FAA to issue this STC, for you to be able, for an operator to be able to put a new battery, a new widget, a new anything into the airplane. So this company is touting some of the advantages of this new lithium-ion battery. They're talking about 40 amp hours at 24-volt battery. One of the biggest advantages to this is that it does easier startups for both the PT6, 67B, and P engines. That's the older PC-12s and the newer PC-12s. It also has an operating range of minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up to 158 degrees Fahrenheit. It's pretty hot. And according to a statement from the company, this type of battery, this new battery, reduces the risk of hot starts, costly engine teardowns and inspections, and improves cold weather performance. Now, I'll get into really what the batteries are for here in a second, but they also said that the STC in this battery has a weight reduction of over 60% over the traditional batteries in the airplane. The batteries will also last up to 4 times longer. Now, for us as a Pilatus operator, the owner that I work for, we're replacing batteries really every 2 years, and they're saying that these batteries can have a longer useful life. So we're talking, 4 or 5 years probably. These batteries are not cheap. They're probably $1,000, $1,200 for a battery. So imagine with an aircraft that has 2 batteries, some Pilatuses only have 1. You are talking about just a couple $1,000s in savings right there. When you're talking about the extended life of the engine with all these increased cranking power, if you want to put it into like car terms, it reduces a lot of stresses on the engine and reduces the amount of time that it takes the engine to spool up enough for you to add fuel into it. You're talking some significant, maybe even tens of thousands of dollars over the course of a couple years in engine wear and tear. Now, I'm going to stick specifically to turboprops. So we're talking aircraft like the TBM, the Caravan, the Pilatus PC-12, King Air. What do the batteries actually do, right? So it's similar to your car. So when you first turn the ignition on without starting the engine, you're going on battery power. It's kind of the same in the turboprop world. We don't have an APU, an auxiliary power unit. There's no little extra jet engine back there. So 95% of your starts are actually off of battery power. Pilatus at some point decided that it was better to put 2 batteries into the airplane for increased starting performance. The other thing that we do with the batteries is obviously it provides emergency power should there be a generator failure, or in our case, a double generator failure in the PT6, 67Bs and Ps. The battery power is having 2 batteries back there. That's going to give you roughly 20 to 30 minutes of electrical power to get the aircraft to a suitable landing site. If you have a battery that lasts longer, now that you're talking an increased safety factor if you can get that up to 40, 45 minutes. Not that you're going to be flying around for 45 minutes, but just having that knowledge that, hey, the batteries are not going to quit on me as I'm on short final after finding a suitable airfield to put this airplane down. The weight savings is pretty significant between the older Pilatuses and the newer Pilatuses. About 500 pounds difference in weight capability. So you could have that in fuel, people, cargo. So just these batteries are not light. They're probably 60, 70 pounds, the traditional ones. So a 60% weight reduction in 2 batteries, that probably gives you an extra 15 minutes of fuel, if not an extra child that you can put on the airplane. So that's pretty significant to get these lithium ion batteries into the Pilatus PC-12s. This also affects the center of gravity of the airplane. So it kind of, the batteries in the Pilatus sit all the way back in the tail, and that will have to shift the center of gravity around. And of course, we talked about the cost savings of having a battery that lasts 2 or 3 times longer, or even 4 times longer as some of the traditional batteries. So anyway, this, like I said, we don't usually do technical stories. We threw this one in there. Really just gives me a chance to kind of nerd out over systems over the Pilatus. Anybody that's out there that's an enthusiast, it's a great airplane. You can actually Google a lot of the schematics. You can just Google the pilot's flight manual, the pilot's information manual, and it's a great airplane to actually learn about complex systems. Where when you start talking about hydraulic systems, electrical systems, and buses and things like that, kind of the next level up from general aviation flying is something like a Pilatus. And hey, you might learn something when we're talking about just a little old battery story.
A little old battery story. Yeah, right. Whatever. I mean, I'm lost.
That story because of my battery woes from last week. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was it a lithium-ion battery though, Nev, that you got for your car?
Wouldn't have thought so. Probably lead acid, I would imagine.
Yeah,
to start
yeah,
my
quite.
machine. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh no.
No, it's the most important thing is have a good battery, especially when you're starting an aircraft like the Pilatus. Definitely for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, on the mention of Armando, we've just had some photographs literally hot off the presses. Ooh. He is, of course, in Reno as we speak. So here's a couple of pictures. He's done a little sort of like a sort of panoramic-y type sort of thing of the ramp.
Oh, it's awful.
Is it? Right, it's awful. Yeah, okay. And there we go. Yeah, somebody could... Don't ask me to... John's asking me to describe it. I can't do that because I don't know what I'm...
It's
Carlos, please.
It's a lineup of very, very nice race-tuned aircraft.
Right. Okay.
I think as a Vans... Is that a Vans? Looks very similar to a Vans
I'm going to just say
RV.
yes, Carlos. I mean,
Background there.
Yeah,
but no, it's a lovely. I tell you what, it's a beautiful backdrop as well. Where that is,
got the mountains,
in
perfect
the back,
blue skies, and all that kind of thing. Yeah,
I tell you what, I'm glad the weather is good because when I left there, Charlotte on Saturday night, the weather was hideous.
Mind you, he's not very near his home, is he? At least,
no.
I suppose he's
a few miles away.
He's a few miles away. Yeah, so it could be anything. Anyway, yes, he's living the dream, as it were, for the last Reno Air Races, and can't wait for the content to arrive from that. It's going to be good, I think.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for that, Armando. Last story in the commercial news segment for this week, coming to us from edition.cnn.com. Oh, haven't we covered stories like this before, guys? Air New Zealand to weigh passengers before they board aircraft. And well, weight limits are very important things, I know, because I had to be weighed last week before I was strapped to a tandem skydive.
That's very, very, very different, though.
Well, weights are very critical in that situation. Trust me.
Yes, I know, but
luckily my diet worked.
It's very different to being weighed, like to get on an actual aircraft. You're doing something stupid by throwing yourself out of a perfectly functioning aircraft.
Oh, the lighter you are, the longer it takes to get to the floor. Anyway,
right. Okay.
Air New Zealand are going to be weighing passengers before they board the aircraft. Remove your shoes, take your keys out of your pocket, and if you're a BA pilot, take your wallet out of your pocket, because we know all of the wages are so good, you see. Step on the scales. That's right, near New Zealand's Civil Aviation Authority is asking that its national airline weigh its passengers departing on international flights from Auckland International Airport through July the 2nd, 2023. The programme, which Air New Zealand calls a passenger weight survey, is a way to gather data on the weight load distribution for the aircraft, the airline has said. We weigh everything that goes on the aircraft, from cargo to the meals on board to the luggage in the hold, Alistair James, the airline's low control improvement specialist, said in a statement. So for customers and crew and cabin bags, we use average weights, which we get from doing this survey. Still, weight is a personal thing that not everyone wishes to disclose. In order to protect individuals' privacy, the airline says it has made the data anonymous. Travellers will be asked to stand on a digital scale, which I have to admit, as me and Nev were commenting earlier, looked like something that came out of a local recycling bin. Anyway, they're asked to stand on the scales and to place their luggage on another identical scale for separate weighing. Travellers will be stepping onto the scales, and it can be daunting, they said. We want to reassure customers there's no visible display anywhere and no one can see your weight, not even us, James said. Oh, interesting. This isn't the first time that Air New Zealand's asked passengers to step on the scales before boarding their flights. Domestic passengers took part in a survey in 2021, but for the international travellers, this was delayed due to the coronavirus pandemic. Among the people who may be asked to take part in the survey are those travelling on the direct flight from Auckland to New York City's JFK Airport. The 17-hour flagship route was launched last fall as a linchpin of Air New Zealand's post-pandemic strategy. It's also one of the longest flights in the world. So, weighing. We all know that airlines have used average weights for a number of years now for passengers. But I mean, they weigh your luggage. I mean, we all know they weigh the luggage when you check in at the desk. Never seen them. I think it's only Ryanair I've ever seen an EasyJet have ever bothered weighing someone's hand luggage before they boarded the aircraft.
Well, maybe for these very long sectors, this is starting to get a bit critical, perhaps. I was just looking at the internet where you can find out all sorts of things on there.
The internet? I've
yes.
never heard of it, Nev. Do you think it'll catch on?
I might do. At present, airlines use assumed mass, estimating the total weight of the passengers by using set figures. Typically, each passenger is assumed to weigh 88 kilos. Sorry for the American lack of pounds there. And airlines may use gender to refine this figure, allowing 93 kilos for men and 75 for women. Well, I'm exceeding all of those numbers straight away. So we're going to have to take a bit more fuel to Orlando on Monday, I think. But,
let's we'll go through some of the things that we've got in the chat room actually, and we'll discuss, shall we? So Captain Cruz is saying Carlos Stebbings being weighed. Yet another reason Matt won't do a jump. 100%. The thing is, they need to. Are they going to? Mark Priestley is saying, are they now going to insist that you go to the toilet beforehand to ensure that you're suitably light? I mean, that'll definitely do.
Lose a couple of pounds.
Well, quite absolutely. Now, what is interesting for me here is that. Oh, hello. Sorry, my machine just jumped around. That was not helpful. So, Main Man Micah is actually saying, although this is we're covering this story like it's an unusual thing, this is actually not unusual. Certainly in the States, certain airlines in certain locations have been weighing passengers for a long time. I flew from Baltimore here to Portland once, and I had to be weighed before I got on the plane. So. Yeah, and again, as John had popped it up, but the message that he was saying, it really is a way to get a hold of the issue about the fact that they haven't changed weight factors when dealing with passengers for 50 or more years, and of course things have changed.
Point, actually, yes, I see some pictures of myself 30 years ago. I'm not the same weight.
No,
that's for sure. Yes.
Absolutely agreed. Yes, Bill is saying I read that it was optional. Oh, hello. What am there? Sorry, the technology's going terribly wrong this evening. I read that it was an optional, which means those of us that are a kilogram challenge may not opt to stand on the scales. As for baggage, do they include emotional or physical? Is what Bill is suggesting there.
And also, when you get your boarding card, sometimes you've got a paper one. It has, Mr. Neville Bounds, BA Gold. Might it say in brackets FB or something like that, referring to my.
Yeah, Facebook. You meant, right, Nev? Yeah,
yeah. How far are we going to go with this?
Yeah. It's got a Facebook handle, right? Yeah, that's yeah. Absolutely. Yes, or as Bill put it, kilogram challenged, shall we say? Can it be refused if you? Yeah, can you be refused if you're over a certain number? I mean, that is interesting. If for example you were doing a parachute jump, you would absolutely
£230.
£230. What's that in English?
It's 103 kilos.
Right. Okay. Lovely. Excellent. I'm a long way off that. That is good news. Excellent.
Certainly on the some of the commuter aircraft I've been on previously, Fokker 50 aircraft. I seem to remember. Yeah, language. And I have been weighed on a couple of occasions. Leaving one of the regional airports in Sweden to go back to Copenhagen. But on the big metal, that's never happened before, I have to say.
Jonathan Warner is saying exceptional load labels. That would be me, obviously. I mean, it's like in my case, it's that I'm not going to give you. I'm not going to weigh. I'm not going to get weighed. Just whatever number you think it is, double it, and you're probably not far enough. But Richard Adams is saying if anyone wants a great lesson in aircraft weights when loading, there is a great CAA video featuring Bruce Dickinson, who used to be Iron Maiden, who used to teach baggage handlers the criticality of load positions. There you go.
Yeah, Micah. Micah, I've actually seen a couple of those on the news feeds in the last few weeks. Mike in the chat room said there's also a series of lawsuits going on in the US at the moment regarding large passengers who are insisting they are not being catered for by the airlines.
Oh,
So yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. I have seen the reports of that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's never going to end well.
Indeed. Yeah, the second part to that is that they are being discriminated against because of their size, which is totally crazy. The airlines create a seat size, and it's up to you to determine if it works for you, which I think is fair enough. I think it's fair, isn't it? I'll give you that. And
And I've got a great segue into the next part of the show from that story
brace yourselves, everyone.
because
Deep breaths. Here we go.
no, this is the coming up next on the show. A great link this is, honestly. This is another segment actually that me and Nev took from the National Museum of Flight in Edinburgh, and we're going to be taking a look at the Comet 4C. And if you look at the seats on this aircraft, I can tell you now that they were very, very accommodating seats. So let's take a look at the video in the Comet 4C. So we've managed to get on board the Comet here at the National Museum of Flight. It's a Comet 4C, painted in a Dan Air livery, and well, it's fantastic. Really good to see this. Honestly, guys, if you could get a chance to come up here, you've got to see this. Look at the interior in the retro 70s style fabric and colours that they had back when this aircraft was working with Dan Air. This aircraft originally was used by the Royal Air Force as well before it was brought by Dan Air to use as a commercial airliner. But just looking at the seating arrangements here, you've actually got there's no blind that you pull down like on normal commercial airlines. We've actually got curtains on this aircraft for you to pull down to stop the sun. But you can see the round windows as well, which obviously were a design that Comet put in place after the terrible crashes that happened to the Comet when it was first designed, when it had square windows, which obviously didn't work very well with pressurization. Hence the round windows, which I have to say, going by standard commercial airliner size windows of today, these windows are a lot bigger. Also, something else to notice as well is the seating arrangements here, with the seats facing rearward, just towards the middle of the aircraft here. Overwing exit is just there, and you've got this last row of seats here which are facing towards the rear of the aircraft. But another thing to note as well, which I was just mentioning to Nev just a moment ago, is how well cushioned the seats are. You know, there's no 2-inch or 1-inch thick seat, and these are really well cushioned seats. Quite comfy as well, I think, if you're sitting on here. Overwing exit, or another overwing exit as well here, with the pull-out windows. Again, loads of legroom. Even the seats here that go down towards the front of the aircraft, the standard legroom in here is pretty good. But remember, this is the heyday of flying when you had big seats and loads of legroom and places to actually put your bags. On that note, overhead lockers, they're not lockers as such, but are literally kind of trays that you can put your bags into above here. With no door, there's no latching system. It is purely just like a coach you would have back on the roads at home, where you put your bags in over the heads here. There's no lockers in here. But there's something else to note as well, back to when you could actually smoke on board aircraft with the cigarette ashtrays here in the arms. Something as well, recline. The seats did recline with a little switch on the front here. You could recline your seat. And another thing to notice as well on these particular seats, which I've just picked up on, is that they are quite a sturdy, well-built framework underneath the seats. I think these are probably made out of something other than aluminium, which is what most of the aircraft seats are made out of nowadays. So quite heavy in that respect. Then the front of the aircraft, we're going down towards the flight deck now. Again, the last row of seats here in a 2-2 configuration are facing rearward on the aircraft. And again, you can see those lovely glorious curtains there, which you could pull across to stop the sun from coming out. Now, just noting here, as I'm walking through, there's actually there is a PA system on board, which obviously the cabin crew use, and there are speakers up here which I would imagine, judging by the size, are probably a better sound quality than the current speakers that we have on board commercial airliners today. I don't know. Perhaps someone who's watching the show who flew a Comet back in the day could say what the PA system is like. But looking back, a 3-2 configuration with the seating, with what I think is actually quite a narrow. Actually, I think compared to some of the airliners, this feels to me like quite a narrow separation between the seats. It looks like it would be quite a mission to push a galley cart down here. But what an iconic airliner, the Comet. I wish I'd have had the chance to have flown on one of these before they were taken out of service. But as I said, this one is a Down Air, ex-Down Air, painted outside with the glorious Down Air colours, and is here outside as a static display at the museum. To actually, you can walk around, you can actually go right underneath the aircraft into where the wheel wells are for the main gear, and put your head right inside there and have a look round. Going to have a quick look at the flight deck, but which is behind us, or in front of us, I should say, here now. Nev is going to swing round, looking at the galley there, and then there is the glorious flight deck there, which you can see with the captain, co-pilot, and also navigator's chair as well there. But no modern GPSs here, all steam gauges. But what a fantastic piece of engineering the Comet was in its day, and a really great commercial airliner that sadly didn't last as long, I think, as de Havilland would have liked. But great to be able to come on board the Comet here at the National Museum of Flight, and big thanks again to all the team here for letting us come on board this, what is an iconic British commercial airliner.
I mean, it sort of reminds me of not an aircraft, believe it or not. It actually reminds me of like a coach, because you haven't got the overhead locker bins like you do to lock in your coach. It's literally just a luggage rack. Angled to sort of stop stuff from falling out as best you can, but that is, as I say, and like even down to the not aluminium. But I mean, those seats must have been blooming heavy. I'd be fascinated to know what the weight factor is, and if you took those seats out and put in modern seats, how much lighter the aircraft would be. That would be a fascinating experiment for me.
Can you remember, Nev, when airliners had seats like that?
Not quite, no. All the aircraft I went on would sort of tend to be 737 Britannias out of Luton and things like that, apart from obviously the Concorde that I had the pleasure of flying on. But no, I don't think I ever recall being on an aircraft with seats quite like that in terms of how thick the cushions were. Yeah, but no, it was fascinating. But as you said, it was a bit tight, wasn't it? That to get a cart down the galley there in between the two rows of seats must have been quite challenging, I would think.
Yeah, but it's still like we just saying there when the video is playing out. It's a shame really that we haven't, or none of us have had the opportunity to have ever flown on the Comet.
No,
but yes, very good. We've still got some more to come from the museum, haven't we, Nev? Some more evidence to come out.
Lots
plus our chat as well,
and of course the big interview as well with Ian, the curator of the museum. So we'll be playing that at some point.
Yeah, looking forward to that as well. But moving on to the next part of the show, and Armando's not here this week, as we said earlier on the show. He's busy at Reno, but we have got a military segment on the show, haven't we? So, Matt, if you're ready,
indeed,
hit the button.
What's up, bogeys 135, 50, Angel 16, heading 340. Okay. Undersea bogeys.
All right, our first military story. Thank you for making the time for it, guys. This was just a couple days ago. A Navy F-5 Tiger II crashed about 25 miles off the coast of Naval Air Station Key West in Florida around 9:20 local time. I believe it was on the 31st of May. The pilot of the fighter jet, assigned to the Sundowners Fighter Squadron, VFC 111, was actually recovered by a crew of an MH-60S Nighthawk. The pilot was actually flown to a Miami hospital for further treatment, according to the U.S. Navy. Of course, they mentioned that the well-being of the pilot is their number one priority, and the cause of the accident will be investigated. In 2017, another F-5, aggressor assigned to the Sundowners crashed off the coast of Key West. That pilot was also recovered by the Coast Guard following the crash. Now, the Sundowners are actually a Navy Reserve Fleet Adversary Program. They fly as opposition forces for active duty squadrons, or really any squadron. If you think about Top Gun, the movie, the original, the F-5 that was on there acting as both aggressors, and they were actually acting as the bad guys, that's the kind of airplane that we're talking about. And they take F-18s, they can take F-35s, they can take some of the newer aircraft and then put them up against an aircraft, a legacy aircraft we're going to call it, like the F-5. According to the Navy, that they just put out the statement on May 31st, they confirmed that the pilot was assigned to Naval Air Station Key West, and they launched a rescue helicopter after receiving news that the aircraft had been lost, but that the pilot was safe. So think back to your Top Gun days. We're obviously very glad that the pilot is okay, but that kind of flying is exactly what was happening when this aircraft had its mishap out there in Key West.
I had to look up what the F5 was there. I know, it took me by surprise then, Armando. I had to look up the F5. I'm trying to picture the F5 in my head. The Northrop Corporation F-5 released, or first flew in 1959. So it's a few years before me and you were about, hey, Matt? But,
yes, quite.
Yeah. Flew with Republic of China, Korea, and the Islamic Republic of Iran, and the US States, or US Air Force, US Navy, I should say, as well. But yeah, thank you for that, as always, Armando. And it's good to see that the pilot was safely recovered as well. That's always a good thing to hear on these stories. Up next, story, another one from Armando, and it's all about that rather interesting piece that hit the news this week when the Chinese decided to have a bit of a fun session in the sky with an RC-135.
Now, this next military story is from thedrive.com. It was actually reported widely in the national news media also. A People's Liberation Army J-16 flanker multi-role fighter performed an, quote, unnecessarily aggressive maneuver close to a U.S. Air Force RC-135 surveillance aircraft over the South China Sea, according to the Pentagon. Now, the incident was the latest in a string of encounters between the Chinese military and that of the United States and its allies in these hotly contested waters, with recent previous examples including a simulated attack on a U.S. Navy task group and a close proximity intercept of another RC-135 by a Chinese J-11 fighter last December. According to a statement from the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, the latest incident, which happened on May 26th of 2023, the pilot of this J-16 flew directly in front of the nose of the RC-135, forcing the U.S. aircraft to fly through its wake turbulence. Now, the term describes the disturbed airflow that an aircraft trails behind it, and it could be potentially dangerous to any aircraft, as would be similar with a commercial airliner landing into an airport and you have a smaller aircraft behind it. But there were some videos that went online, and you can see, cameras don't really do it justice, but you can see as the Chinese fighter cuts right in front of the nose of the aircraft, and you can see that the RC-135, which is based on a 707 platform, pretty big airplane, shook pretty well as it flew through the jet wash and the wake turbulence of this fighter jet. Now, this type of maneuver on the part of the Chinese fighter is known as thumping or headbutt, and involves the aircraft putting itself in front of the nose of the aircraft that is being intercepted, sometimes at a very close range. In any case, the potential of wake turbulence could be very risky for the aircraft on the receiving end. Now, the Chinese obviously have been kind of known to do this. They do this regularly. Most famously, probably, was the intercept gone wrong of a U.S. Navy EP-3 Orion, where in that situation they came so close that the aircraft actually collided, and that EP-3 ended up having to do an emergency landing on Hainan Island, and the crew was detained for a couple of days while the diplomacy worked to get them back home. So kind of takes place all the time, but the Pentagon is saying that this one was, quote, again, unnecessarily aggressive. You be the judge of it by watching the video.
Thank you, Armando. And if you haven't seen the video yet, it's doing the rounds on social media, especially on Twitter. And I think it's on YouTube as well now. If you just Google Chinese J-16 and RC-135, and if you watch the video, you'll see that the pilots were shaken. Well, they were shaking around on the flight deck of the 135, and it did cause, you know, definitely an upset in the air with the guys. Which, as we know, if you've ever watched some of the episodes of Air Crash Investigation, these things can, you know, bring down airliners, can't they, Nev?
Yes, very much so. Yeah. So no, very fortunate as it turned out. So yeah.
Silly thing to do though, but there we go. Last one coming from simpleflying.com, and it's all about a rather large aircraft. The C-17 Globemaster is now St Helens Airport's biggest visitor. The mighty C-17 Globemaster, with a wingspan of 169 feet, blimey, is now visiting St Helena Airport in the South Atlantic. The C-17 is not being exiled like Napoleon was back in the early 1800s to St Helena, but rather it's conducting a United Kingdom Royal Air Force capability demonstration. South Africa's Airlink has served St Helena's Airport since October the 14th, 2017, flying a weekly service with its Embraer E190, with the AR standing for Advanced Range, also known as the Embraer 190-100 IGW. However, there are times when the British need to haul heavy equipment to the remote overseas territory, which is why one of the Royal Air Force's 8 C-17s paid a visit. According to the St Helena Independent, the C-17, registration Zulu Zulu 177, arrived on May the 19th to undertake 4 approaches, a fly past over James Bay, and finally a full stop landing. During the last approach, the aircrew also did a bit of showmanship, showing off the undercarriage to the gathered spectators before landing. The landing showed off the C-17's incredible capabilities by only using 2,516 feet, or 767 meters, of the runway, which is just about half its total length. St Helena's runway is around 5,036 feet long, or 1,535 meters. After the full stop landing and more accurate turnaround, or more acute turnaround, than the weekly Airlink E190, the C-17 crew and personnel, numbering around 20, had a picture with the CEO of the airport, who is CEO Gwyneth Howell. For the airport that was once branded the world's most useless airport, that's a bit harsh, St Helena's continued to prove its worth. The C-17 Globemaster is, as we all know, a Boeing-built military airlifter which first flew back in September 1991. 279 aircraft were built between 1991 and 2015, with the overwhelming majority, 222, in service with the US Air Force. However, C-17s can also be found with the air forces of the following countries, including Australia, Canada, India, Kuwait, NATO forces, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, and obviously us here in the UK with the Royal Air Force. Now, the C-17 Globemaster, called Globemaster 3 in the United States Air Force, is an undeniable sign of national commitment to cause with 170,900 pounds worth of maximum payload, or if you're feeling like kilograms, 77,519 kilograms of payload. It can haul military tanks as well as large industrial equipment anywhere in the world with refueling, aerial refueling capabilities. Without the aerial refueling, the C-17's range is around 2,780 miles or 4,480 kilometres. The C-17 is best known for Operation Allies Refugee, or to the Brits, Operation Pitting, the relatively successful evacuation from Afghanistan as the Afghan government collapsed late 2021. Thousands and thousands of refugees crammed to many aircraft, but mostly C-17s, including on one record-setting mission to flee the totalitarian Taliban forces. The C-17s flying into Kabul International Airport, surrounded by mountains without modern Western navigation equipment, required the aircraft could not just navigate, but also which have the lift and thrust to fit into tight spaces. The C-17 was the right aircraft for the job, with its 4 Pratt & Whitney F-117-PW100 turbofan engines based on the Boeing's 757 engines, and each engine packing 40,440 pounds of thrust attached to a high-lift wing. Ultimately, the C-17 can land on short runways and even take freight long distances. And the C-17 can be on a mission of humanitarian assistance or supporting warfighting just as easily. And in fact, we had one of these fly over us a couple of days ago, Matt.
Oh,
just over Suffolk here. Yeah, just over Suffolk, going into Mildenhall, I presume. But yeah, you can't miss them when you see them in the sky. Trust me. Even when they're at 10,000 feet, they're still blooming huge aircraft.
Noisy, I think, is the word you're looking for. Yeah.
But no, a good bit of kit, these C-17s, and yeah, thanks for putting the military stories together for us this week, Armando.
As always, yeah.
Next part of the show, then, it is
Nick, of course, yeah.
And Nick as well. Yes, thanks, Nick. The Caption This Just for Fun picture this week, which, as Armando is not with us, I thought this week, just for a change, we'd do a military special Caption This picture. So Matt's got the picture there. And Nev, for the benefit of our audio listeners, what's going on in this particular picture this week?
Well, it looks like some bees or wasps, probably bees actually, aren't they? And the exhaust pipe areas of a couple of engines. So we were in no shortage of suggestions as to what they might be.
Well, quite, indeed.
Neil kicked us off saying Fly B resumes service with new fast jets.
I see what happened there.
James says apparently bees absolute adore airplanes.
Alan says, is that an F-18 or is it a B-52?
Bill says, yes, sir. They are Hornets on the flight line. Why do you ask? Oh, in reference to the aircraft. Very good.
Oh, I see. Right, yes.
Stuart says you're going to need some cream for that.
Quite, absolutely. It's going to be a bit sore, that one, isn't it? James is saying, with all those bees making a home there, those engines are even sweeter.
Oh, my God. David says, roast honey, anyone? That F-18 has a sting in its tail.
See what you did there? Yeah.
I do like this one. It's from John. He says there's a real buzz about Honeywell aerospace engines being fitted to US Navy fighters.
I think Richard is making a bit of a reference to the old Top Gun film here. He's saying, let's go and buzz the tower.
Oh, God. Another B reference here. Mark says, drones attack. It's true.
Yes. And finally from Dirk, exhausted bees. Exhausted. Yes.
Once again, see what he did there. Anything in the chat room? What have we got in the chat room?
Mark Priestley says, sting in the tail.
Very good. Yes, I like it. Yeah. Anything else?
Richard Adams, not a B-1 bomber.
Oh, no. Jonathan Warner is saying, looks like a B-1B.
Oh, God. Richard Adams. Oh, blimey. Go on, Matt.
Yeah,
Richard
he says, who needs Stinger missiles?
Very good.
Love it. There we go.
Big thanks to everyone who took part in the Caption this week. Don't forget to check out our social media on Facebook on a Wednesday, when I tend to put these pictures up for you to leave your witty, funny comments on. So make sure you check us out on Facebook. All the details, more on that, coming at the end of the show. But let's hand things over to our resident librarian of the show.
Librarian? Rude.
Yeah, but a lot of people have said that about me, that I should spend more time in the library. Unfortunately, most of our libraries have closed around where I live.
Well, of course, yes, indeed.
Right, the caption competition. I beg your pardon, the book competition. We just had the caption competition. A couple of weeks ago, we asked the question, what exact date did Sir Richard Johns join the RAF as an air cadet? And we had several correct answers here. So I've got a new bag here, which I'm going to use to draw out the correct answers. So we've got several in here, so I'm just going to have a quick fiddle.
Looks quite a posh bag, that, Nev.
It does, yes. It's the battery jump starter pack came in. A bit of advertising for them there as well on the front there. Anyway, in my hand here, I do have one of the correct answers. Let's see who the lucky
drum roll
is, or lady. And it is Richard Adams.
Oh, very good.
Week.
Very good.
There we are.
Well done, Richard.
And your prize, sir, is a copy of Sir Richard Johns' autobiography, Bolt from the Blue. You'll remember that Nick and I did a super series of interviews with Sir Richard, one of the first big interviews we did, actually. So that'll be winging its way to you tomorrow. I should go down to the post office and send it off to you. We have your address, I'm sure. So well done. And we have, of course, another competition to pose to you, another question, because we've got another book here. This one's Halton Boys, and this is written by Sean Feast. And there's a connection here because RAF Halton is the nearest military RAF station to where I live, here in Buckinghamshire. And the question is, what year was the airbase established? What year was the airbase established at RAF Halton? Here's the prize, Halton Boys by Sean Feast. It's just occurred to me that I've not actually given you the answer to the Sir Richard Johns question, which was very remiss of me. So the answer to that was the exact date that he joined the RAF as an air cadet was the 9th of January 1957. 9th of January 1957 for that one. And this week's question is, RAF Halton is the nearest military station to where I live here in Buckinghamshire. What year was the base established? Send your answers to podcast@planetalkinguk.com. Don't put it in the chat room because it won't count. Send it off to us by email, and then we'll read out we'll do another prize draw of the winners next week.
Oh, thanks for that, Nev, and well done to Richard Adams for sending in the correct answer.
Yeah,
well done. Well done. What I'll try and do as well, I will, for those of you who follow us on Facebook, I will try and get a little screenshot of that book, which is on offer this week, along with the question as well. Nev, if you can swing them over to me, I shall pop them on our socials so everyone gets a good old chance at winning that book. Yeah. So we're going to start to wrap up this week's show, and but don't forget to check out our social medias. If you've not already looked us up, we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Search for Plain Talking UK. Our WhatsApp number as well, if you fancy sending us a picture to go on the green screens behind me and also Matt in the PTUK studios, you can send those to +44 757 22 If you want to email the show and send in your answers to win that book, or send us in some feedback, you can send it into podcast@planetalkinguk.com. And the website, allthews.planetalkinguk.com, is where you can find out more info on the team. And also you can find the links on there to Patreon if you want to become a patron of the show, or if you want to send us a dollar or two on PayPal as well. All the links on there. And also, don't forget, on our website is the shop where you can get yourself not only one of our fantastic PTUK T-shirts with the embroidered logo on the front and the print on the back, you can also get yourself one of our glorious PTUK mugs, and also the military grey mug as well, which I know I'd spied in Armando's cabinet last week at his house. He's got his in there. You can find all the links on there to get yourself one of those fantastic mugs. And don't forget to check us out on the website as well, where you can find the info on us as all us hosts. You can find out how we came to be where we are today, as such. Well, that is about it, guys and girls. Nev, quick round robin. What are you up to next week, Nev?
I'm back doing some flying next week. Well, as a passenger, not actually flying the A320. So off to Stockholm Arlanda on Monday for a couple of days, and then back on Wednesday. So I'll be able to see if BA have done the new safety video yet. I can't wait for that.
And Matt, what are ye up to next week?
Do you know, not a lot really, just work, I think, really. Quite a quiet one for me, I think. Going to be very unusual. Yeah, no radio or anything. Just quiet week.
Apart from tomorrow morning, obviously.
Well, yeah, but that's just normal.
Okay.
That's the weekend. But during the week, not a lot really. Yeah.
And John, what are you up to next week? Oh, brilliant! That's fantastic.
Yeah,
he's going skydiving. Well done, John. Right. So we're going to say a big thanks to everyone who's joined us in the YouTube chat room this evening. Thanks to everyone in there, all the usual family members joining us this evening. Good to see you in there. Also, big thanks to everyone who downloads the show as an audio podcast each week. Thanks for supporting us all. It's what we love doing. And don't forget as well, next Sunday, me, Matt and Nev will be at the RAF Cosford Air Show. We're going to be there. So if you are off to the RAF Cosford Air Show next Sunday, don't forget to come and say hello to me. Nev and Matt will be there. Nev will have his muff out, I don't doubt. And Matt, I'm sure, will be doing his tech stuff as he does so well every time.
Screw that, I'm eating ice cream.
He's eating ice creams. So that's it then for the show, guys. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend, whatever you're up to. That's it for episode 458 of the show. We'll see you next Friday on the show, where we may well have a special guest next Friday, but we'll save that one for next week. So take care, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday. Say goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye.